Welcome to the Teach Better Talk podcast, your official podcast for the Teach Better Podcast Network, the hub for all things education, brought to you by teachbetter.com. The Teach Better Talk podcast is committed to answering your burning questions through a variety of lenses and bringing new offers to you and your colleagues to help you thrive throughout the school year. My name is Ray Hewart, and we love your questions here on the pod. If you have any questions that you'd love us to consider as topics for future episodes, please share them with us by emailing info@teachbetter.com.
All right, we are getting into this week's theme. We are getting into budgeting. Ugh, I almost feel like cringy when I say that. Where is my money going? That's where we're getting to. I do want to give a shout out to Amanda, a part of the Teach Better team. She's doing amazing things. And speaking of budgeting, if you ever get a postcard or a gift or anything that is signed by the Teach Better team, that's actually Amanda on our team. Her full-time role with our team is literally to send gifts and fun postcards and celebrate all of our community's birthdays. So huge shout out to Amanda, doing amazing work. In addition to those wonderful celebrations that hopefully you're getting from the team on occasion, this is definitely a day for celebration. I think I'm interviewing my Instagram crush today. Bridget, I cannot believe you're here on the show. How are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I'm thrilled to have you on the show. We're going to talk about so many things, obviously getting into budget, but you are somebody that I love consuming your content. You're not an educator necessarily, but I think you educate me more day to day than anybody else.
I'm just honest, but yeah, I guess that's something that people aren't used to. So they've been enjoying that.
Isn't that weird that we'll get into everything that you do, but you literally have made a career of just giving your opinion and being awesome and funny. Like, how does that feel?
Refreshing. It doesn't feel like I'm working. I don't have any expertise or anything. I just, buy products people want to know if they're good or not. I feel like on social media, people glorify so many things, and I just look at it like a normal consumer and is it good or not, and post my raw reaction.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get into all this. Friends, I follow Bridget every day. I'm eager for a new video, and I am now at the point, I love that you said social media hypes up so many products. I'm at the point now that if I want to buy something, I'm just going to start DMing you and being like, okay, is this a vibe or not? Like, help me out, because I hate returning stuff. And it's much easier when you have like someone you trust being like, hey, good products right here. This is worth the $2 or this is worth the money.
Exactly.
So good. Bridget, before we get too far in, I do want to make sure our community kind of has a vision of who you are. Obviously, they're going to be massive fans after this, but who are you? What do you do? Kind of like, who is
Sure. So I am a 30-year-old mom of one and a puppy. I live in upstate New York, married to my high school sweetheart. I've been doing social media for just over a year, 13 months. And I recently was able to quit my job and do it full time last month. I make honest review videos and just show my raw reaction to what I think of things. And it's started to catch on and made it so that I can do it full time. So I just am being authentically myself full time and getting paid for it.
It's insane. When I reached out to you on social, I was like, there's no way this busy woman is going to have even a millisecond to dedicate to my dorky message.
No.
But friends, I literally message her on direct message being like, hey, I kind of think you're the coolest person ever. And if you ever had like 5 seconds to talk, like we really want you on Teach Better Talk podcast.
Yeah, no, people do that all the time to me. I have such imposter syndrome. I mean, I don't think I'm like big or anything, but people will message me all day and I just reply and they're like, you replied? I'm like, yeah, like you messaged me. Like, why wouldn't I?
I think it's amazing that, and obviously this will be the theme of so much we'll be able to talk about, but your whole mindset is, I just want to be a human and I want to be accessible. And I think educators in the Teach Better family are going to relate to that. I mean, there's so much out there that is glorified, not honest. Fake is what comes to mind. And, to connect with somebody on social and have an authentic relationship, whether it be because they're in the same field as you, or you respect the work they're putting out, or you just so happen to have kids the same age. Like, those are the relationships that I think are really making a difference in this world right now.
Yeah, I think we're just so worried about what everyone else is thinking, what everyone else is doing, what everyone else has. And at the end of the day, life is life is short. We aren't guaranteed another day. I was in a really bad car accident in the fall that kind of changed my perspective on things. I was just sitting at a stoplight on my way to work and ended up being out of work for a long time. And that was kind of what motivated me to do this full time, because I'm like, why am I just doing this 9 to 5 that I'm not super passionate about? I might not be here tomorrow. So let's just do something I love. And thank God it's worked out. But yeah, I think it's really easy to just get into everyday things and look on social media and be like, oh, they're doing this and this and this. And I try to just be honest with what my day to day is. I try not to fluff it up and be like, oh, you need this product, you need this product. I just try to be myself.
I actually find that I really like the game of when you review something, I'm like, OMG, I have that. Like we're connected.
Mm-hmm.
There's this really great shout out to Jackie Mojan, who's a member of our Teach Better Ambassador community, who recommended this like cold head pack, and it's in a bunch of your videos. That is something you
wear every day.
Seriously, I'm like, that was such a good recommendation, and because Bridget said it's a good idea, now I might need to. It's fine.
Yeah, that accident gave me some concussion problems, so I wear that every single day. I look a mess when I wear it, but I love it, and it's so comfy. And that's the thing, is like there are a lot of things that I genuinely love. It's not just me saying that products are terrible. There are products that I really do love, and so that's
yeah, that is totally clear. The 10-point scale that you rate things at, and sometimes you're like, listen, I don't really like it, but like maybe you would. And I just love the honesty. So let's get into your life, though. I mean, you are obviously doing amazing, being honest, sharing ideas. I mean, it's so authentic. I cannot emphasize that enough. In our community, who's following you, hopefully already, but if not, we'll follow you. We'll be able to see that theme. Tell me about marrying the high school sweetheart. I mean, that is not common anymore, I feel like, these days. Marrying the high school sweetheart and building a family. That's so rom-com.
And I hate saying marrying high school sweetheart. It kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit, because I feel like that just makes it seem like, oh my God, life is perfect. And like, I'm an honest girl. Marriage is tough. Being with someone for 14 years is tough. We have grown up together. We've been together almost half of our lives. So yeah, it's not something that's normal, because a lot of times when you're in high school and then when you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's a completely different person. So I can say that it's amazing to be with my high school sweetheart, but I wouldn't, glorify it. But my husband, AJ, is just like my best friend, in the way that I don't have to, just like my social media, I don't have to be anything else. Like, we just crack up at each other. We laugh. We're just crazy. We're really great at parenting our son together. We're very similar in that. And we're constantly working on ourselves and also our marriage, which I think is super important. When we had our son 2.5 years ago, it's a lot to have a kid, and you think you're so great with your partner, and then you have this kid and you lose your patience because you're using all your patience on your kid and stuff like that. So it does test a lot. And I think it's important, if you can find someone to watch your kid, to take date nights or go away for a night or things like that, because that seriously helps our marriage a lot. We also recently, even though my job is social media, when he gets home from work every day, we try to put our phones away until like 8:00 and just be present with our family. And it's so easy to just have it as a crutch and to look at it. And like, life is, again, never guaranteed. So you might as well be present as much as you can. And so it's great. But I will say, if you are struggling in your marriage, or if you had young kids and you struggled and you felt like the spark wasn't there, that is completely normal. And, you just got to communicate and keep working through it.
I really appreciate the value of finding an opportunity to dedicate serious time and love to continuing to build the relationship you have, but also looking at, I know we're supposed to be talking about budgeting, which we'll get to. Looking at how to feel rich, in my mind, is all about the people you keep around, right? It's not just about the dollar amount that you want to keep in your bank account, although it feels good and that provides opportunities. the reality is that there's so many ways to be wealthy and to be rich. And one of the things I really value is considering myself extremely well off and, you know, and rich simply by the people I keep in my life. And I love that your partner's able to add that.
Yep, exactly. When he moved in with me in 2016, I got laid off from my job. So the two of us together were making $30,000, and we live very similarly now. Whenever we get a raise, whenever we get bonuses, goes into savings. We love traveling on a budget. We're both very big on budgeting, and yeah, at the end of the day, it's the experiences and the people you have. It's not what you have that, you know.
So some educators will be hearing that you transitioned from a career into social media full time. We only hear about that, honestly. The people that are like not in it, I feel like we just hear about that as like this mystical opportunity that happens. Can you give us like some insight? What does it even mean to say, oh yeah, I made money doing social media, I still make money doing social media? Because so many of us just use social to connect with friends. We just use social to follow our favorite influencers. I know that you don't want to hear this, but like, you're definitely an influencer that I stalk on a constant basis. So like, do you mind like sharing those details? I feel like it's so faux pas to talk money in social.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. So it's definitely a leap of faith, I will say, and you're kind of just crossing your fingers. It's similar to owning your own business, where there's expenses, there's taxes, there's multiple streams of income, and your income completely varies every day, every week. There is nothing that's like, you know, standard about it. So I could make 10 times what I make one month the next. Like there's months that are not stable. There's months that I make a lot. So there's that. There's multiple streams of income that I have. I have brand deals. I'm starting to get more of those. It's very difficult, I will say, to get brand deals with my platform because I am not brand friendly, because I am an honest person. So
right.
Yeah. So
because the brand doesn't want you to like look at their product and be like, meh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why when I do get brand deals, I'll ask them to send it first so I can, you know, make sure I like it and stuff. But sometimes my manager will be like, oh yeah, we had a brand deal with this company, but you already reviewed their product and said it was terrible. So like they don't want to work with you. I'm like, sorry about that. But so a lot of times people ask me to review products that a lot of people are doing brand deals for because they want to know if it's good or not. So it can be difficult on that area. But my defense is, if I do a brand deal, I like a product, at least people are going to know it's legit and it's not just like an ad. So totally. I do have that. I do get money from views on TikTok, but that is extremely unstable and very much varies. And TikTok might be gone next year, so that's not something I can rely on. I don't get anything from Instagram, and
Okay, that's too bad because Instagram's like my go-to to follow you. So I'm like, hold on, but what about? Do you have anything where it's like link? It's like if I get something in Amazon that you requested, good, because every time I'm like, if Bridget better benefit from this, I'm gonna pay.
So I don't
get $10 for this.
Yeah, I really don't get much at all from that. I'm making like $100 a month to be completely on the Amazon stuff, but maybe eventually, once I find better products and stuff like that, it'll. I feel like half the products I don't like, so people aren't always buying. But yeah, there is that too. And then I want to start YouTube in the fall when this is up. So hopefully that will be a thing. So beginning of September is my goal to start a YouTube channel. So definitely go check out. Hopefully that will be there.
Yeah, I know. Friends, seriously, it's the end of September right now and this episode is coming out. So that is a call to action. Pause whatever you're doing. If you're listening on Teach Better Talk podcast, thank you for being here. Just pop over to YouTube really quick. If you're watching this on YouTube, that makes it even easier, friends. Go pop over and subscribe. That's one thing that I think is a misconception where people, obviously it's nice to follow the people that you want to engage with their content because it pops up for you in your newsfeed, but following and subscribing actually benefits the creator too. It's like gifting them, you know, a wider reach. Do you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a couple things. It depends on the platform, what's most beneficial. Following helps in the broad scheme of brands looking at you and saying, okay, you have this many followers, we want to work with you, or we want to pay you this much. Watching videos all the way through is a big help. If you watch, you know, the first couple seconds, that's I spend the most amount of time on my videos in the first couple seconds because you get like 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds for people to decide if they're going to swipe or not. So there's a lot that goes behind it in that way. How long a video is, it's the same thing. If people will stay and watch it all, of sharing, commenting, things like that. But yeah, following, I mean, and all of these are free ways to support people. If you are going to buy something that they recommended, if you click on their storefront, or if you don't even buy something, just clicking on their storefront, that will help them make some sort of commission. Sharing videos, anything like that. They're great ways to help support.
Well, and I love the free opportunity to support people that you like. Because honestly, I obviously have my like Ray Hewart social media that I post a ton of educational content, a ton of what's going on with the Teach Better team. But then I have my personal account that I never post on, and I'm just like totally a stalker. I just like look at videos, consume content. And it's always nice when you have people that you enjoy seeing them pop up on your newsfeed to be like, I can dedicate a millisecond to supporting them because they're clearly providing me so much value. So I just always think that awareness is important.
Definitely.
So good. Friends, stick with us. We're getting into budgeting conversations and anything else that comes up. Let's be honest, motherhood, mental health, anything else that we want to chat through, stick with us.
Quick pause to talk about social media. Are you on social media and following the Teach Better team? Head over to your favorite platform, whether it be YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or anything in between, and make sure you're following at Teach Better Team. You'll be getting full updates on all exciting news, including deals of the week, fun blogs, new podcast episodes, and easy, quick downloads that are awesome to send to your teachers at the start to every new week.
Where is my money going? Let's talk budgeting. I know many of us cringe when we're talking finances, and either, regardless of where you fall into this category, if you are really good at budgeting or you kind of like close your eyes every single week and hope and pray that it works out, we have a lot of different conversations we're going to be able to have here with Bridget. I know you mentioned that you like are very dedicated to a budget. I want to talk a lot of ways to save and ways that educators can be smart with their money. Obviously, this is a theme all week long, but I'm excited to get your insight. Tell me first and foremost, what inspired you to care about your finances? I think that's kind of a general question, but the reality is that sometimes there's an event that you're like, well, when I got laid off, I decided money should be there.
Yeah, so I actually was raised that way. We weren't insanely well off. I have 4 sisters. There's 5 of us, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So growing up, we like, if I wanted a cell phone, I had to pay for it. If I wanted a car, I had to pay for it, things like that. So I started budgeting in high school when I started getting paychecks. So I would make an Excel spreadsheet with my paycheck, and then I'd put, $10 a week towards phone, $20 a week towards insurance, whatever. And it made it so that when I was living at home, and the year that I graduated college, I saved $10,000 from just living at home and then saving, because I was working while in college. And I lived at home while in college too, to save a lot of money that way. So I was just working a normal job, and I was able to save that so that I moved out. I got a roommate when I moved out, so to split the cost of living. And then I've always had like savings accounts. So I have a dog. I've always wanted a dog. I have a dog savings account. There's $1,000 in that. Car savings account, $1,000 in that. I always have different savings accounts. And then we would have like a vacation savings account that we would put into. And yeah, when my husband started living with me in our apartment, I got laid off from the job that I had. And we were just the 2 of us making, because of him, $30,000. Now we're making a lot more than that. But like I said, for taxes, tax season, or bonuses or raises, we don't change the way that we live or spend our money based on that. And so that all gets put into savings. The biggest thing that helped me in the beginning when I was struggling with finances with my husband was writing down everything. Now there's a lot of apps you can do that. But I think the first time I wrote it out, it was like $1,600 a month on food, with grocery shopping, restaurants, like all this. And I'm like, coffee stops, all these things. And I'm like, doesn't make any sense. So like going out to eat with friends, all that stuff just adds up. So I think the first thing is to just write everything out, or use the apps to track it, because a lot of people will say they're living paycheck to paycheck, and you are, but you don't really need to. So we actually would have, when we were living together in our apartments in the beginning, $50 a month each that we were allowed to spend whatever we wanted on. And that would be going out to eat, going out with friends, movies, things like that. Now, this was a while ago, so that might be a little bit low. And then we kept track of it. And if you didn't spend your $50, it rolled over to the next month. So if you wanted to get something big, I kept rolling mine over, and I ended up getting myself a subscription to a local theater so I could see Broadway tour shows. Yeah. My husband would use it towards football, leagues. So yeah.
That's such a good idea. Yeah, I think that's a first step when we're talking about budgeting, because I think sometimes getting into money conversations, especially with educators, we get really big. And sometimes it's nice to start small. Print out your bank statement, start highlighting and categorizing, or I don't know what apps are out there specifically that you would recommend. I really like Rocket Money. And again, this is not like a sponsor, but this is an opportunity that, like, it's an app, it connects to your accounts, and it can help you kind of like divvy things out. And I found that to be really helpful. I also like their payment model. I don't know if you know anything about it, but essentially they're like, pay what you think it's worth. And I was like, that's a genius business model, because I for sure pay for it every month. And don't think twice about it, because I get the value. So finding, you're right, like whatever the app is, or geez, print out your bank statement and like cut it up and categorize, old school vibes. Why not? I think that's the first step in awareness. That gives me anxiety to say, though, like getting over the even just to pull the trigger to talk money or to look at my finances is really something I struggle with anxiety wise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's something that will, and living paycheck to paycheck will affect you anxiety wise, but I feel like it's so liberating to have a hold of your finances and to know what you're doing. And so I feel like as a kid, we'll give kids like $20 in a store and say, you have $20 to spend in the store. But as adults with credit cards and technically all the money we can spend, you're going to spend all this money and then later be like, oh, I didn't really need this or have all this clutter. So I think giving yourself a budget each month. So not saying I can't do things, but giving yourself a budget so you can find more inexpensive ways to do things or stuff like that is something that definitely helps, especially if you're struggling.
Well, and making it practical, something that was such an easy way for you to still get what you want if it isn't that in that month's budget, is to have that rollover. You get $50 this month. If you only spend $12, it's going to roll over and you can get that bigger ticket item. So
exactly.
I almost feel like as an educator, it's like gamifying the system. Like, it doesn't mean you have to have the money right this minute, but you can work towards getting it and then still get that silly thing that maybe you don't need, but you just want it because it's great. And that's also fine. So,
and that was another thing with sharing finances. It can be difficult. Some things are important to you and not to another person. And our rule with that was, you are not allowed to judge my $50. I can spend it on whatever I want. So if it's going to be takeout from this place you think is disgusting, if it's going to be these shoes you think are overpriced, it doesn't matter. It's not your problem. It's my $50. I can spend it however I want and then roll it over the next month. And you get the same respect. And I'm not going to judge what you're buying either, because it can be difficult when you're together. There's something that you really want and your partner's like, well, you don't need that. That's a way to get your independence too.
Something I loved that you were sharing earlier, I'm just going to go back to, you were talking about having different savings accounts of, $1,000 for the dog, whatever that is. I want to ask some dumb, silly questions on that, because I know a lot of educators are going to have things that when they have $50, they go spend it on someone else. And I really want to emphasize, educators, I know your service mindset, but don't take your $50 that month and go spend it on your classroom. There are a lot of things we can talk about on how to get money for your classroom that isn't your personal finances. However, even if you are going to put money into your classroom, which I really, really hope you don't do, and you reach out and we find the grants to help you do that, maybe that is more of having like a savings account for the classroom purchases. Do you mind going into, do you literally have different accounts with the same bank that this money is housed in, or is it on the spreadsheet? Like, give me the stupid questions that
No, that's fine. So I have a credit union, and you just have to ask them, and you can have as many savings accounts as you want. So where you see checking and savings, you can add on savings accounts. It started out with me making a wedding savings account because we paid for our wedding. And like I say, we're bougie on a budget. So we wanted really nice things, but we wanted to save money, I got my wedding dress at a sample sale store in Boston. It was on TLC called Found the Gown. So I got a like really nice wedding dress for super cheap. But yeah, so you can have as many savings accounts as you want and just move things around. So you can have it so that like 20% of your paycheck goes directly into a certain amount so you don't even see it. That's super helpful. If if people are giving you money towards your classroom and you want to make sure it's going to the correct place. For example, my son is only 2 right now, and he'll get checks or cards or stuff with, birthdays. And I just put that into his savings account. So he has like $800 in there right now for whatever date. So it helps it so that things can stay organized. And it's kind of similar to like the cash envelope system, if you're familiar with that, but more updated because we don't always have cash.
Right. And that's the nice part. I really want to emphasize that you can go and have multiple savings accounts. This doesn't need to be kind of that old school mindset of like, you have a savings account, you have your debit, and then the credit cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're able to kind of divvy that out. I love the connection to that envelope system because so many of us know what that is like. And I really want to highlight again the opportunity to pull money automatically. That 20% goes in there. Or maybe you have an account that's, for the puppy and you just keep it full at 1,000. And when something happens, you work to fill that back up to that $1,000 mark. And then maybe you don't add to it. So many different elements there. Bridget, there's so many things that we can talk about, but I do want to make sure that we get into our highlights, major takeaways. We'll be right back. Stick with us. As we are wrapping up our conversation, I definitely want all of you to add Bridget to your follow list, as well as go and look at the products she's reviewing. Like I said, literally the last one I watched was probably a few days ago. You did like a Target Dollar Tree or dollar section review. There's so many good things there, and they're not all crazy expensive, but it's fun to see what things are like. The honesty I hope you have been able to see throughout this episode is just something I always authentically love about Connections. There's going to be a lot of discussion this week on budget, but let's talk about some key takeaways from this conversation and from the insight that our amazing guest has. Bridget, if you had to identify some main takeaways that you're like, listen, if you didn't listen to the episode all the way through and you just jumped to this part of the podcast, or let's say you were multitasking, doing the dishes, on your way to school, doing different things, what are some key things that as you walk away from this conversation you should remember? What comes to mind?
So first off, budgeting, being rich has nothing to do with money. It is a mindset. It is a way of life. I think living with a grateful mindset every day, just looking at the things around you. My husband and I were at dinner the other night and I go, it's so nice that we have the ability to eat. And he was like, what? And I'm like, there's people that don't have the ability to, they're too fed. Like there's so many things. You can walk down the street and be jealous of the person who has a bike, and the person who has a bike is jealous of the person who has a car. Like there's so many things. So it doesn't matter what you have. Some of the quote richest people money wise are the most unhappy. So just find happiness in everything around you. First off, second, social media is a highlight reel. And I think we hear that all the time, but think to yourself on a day-to-day, do you post your worst things? Do you post your kids screaming? Do you post when your house is a mess? Other people aren't doing that either. They're posting majority of the time their best moments. And a lot of people are posting them with filters and things like that. And if you knew the thought process behind them when they were posting those pictures and videos, they are thinking very similar to you. So try to find people that have the same values as you. If somebody's that you're following, triggers you, even if it's family, unfollow them, mute them. There's no need to be looking at content. If the news is triggering, don't follow the news. Follow things that bring you joy and make you happy, because there's no need. It doesn't change, your life if you're following things that are, making you anxious or anything like that.
I love that. And the takeaway of the news is a great one. If it's triggering, then give yourself a specific time to maybe get educated on what's going on in the world and then step away from it. And it doesn't need to pop up when you're not prepared. I love that reminder.
And last, I would say anxiety doesn't fix things. So if you are anxious about, what's going to happen at school tomorrow, if you're anxious about what's happening with a kid right now at home that you're not with, if you're anxious about money, it's okay to be anxious. It's okay to dedicate time to being anxious. That's not going to fix and change the problem. So pick a certain amount of time that you say, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time to be anxious about this, that, and the other. And then I'm not letting it control my life. So if you're anxious about work, be anxious when you're doing whatever at work. But then when you go home, you need to clock off mentally as much as you can. I know you guys still get emails all night and texts, which I think is ridiculous. I do not understand that. But if there's some sort of boundary you can put in, give your phone to your spouse, give your phone to your kid and say, take this from me and I'll check it, at the first 5 minutes of every hour or what have you, put boundaries in, because just living in fear and anxiety, that's not going to change or better things for yourself or anybody else.
Such good reminders. Friends, clearly, if you have not caught on, there are a million more questions and a million more conversations we could have had here. Bridget, how can our community stay connected to you? Because not only do they want to consume your content, but I'm sure they're going to have a lot of follow-up after this episode of Teach Better Talk podcast. And I want to make sure that they're able to connect with you with that as well.
Yeah, so right now I am on TikTok and Instagram, and my handle is @HonestlyBridget, BRIDGET. Feel free to DM or message me. If you have anything you want me to review, put them in the comments. That's where I get most of the things to review. And hopefully I will have YouTube as well, and that will be linked in my social medias if that's up.
Yes, friends, go over to YouTube, press subscribe to that new YouTube channel. It'll be really fun to see that grow, just like your TikTok and Instagram has. And I love that those followers are celebrating the authenticity and honesty that's happening with the work you're doing. I'm so glad that it sounds like it's going to continue and it's only going to get better from here. Friends, because you made it this far in the episode, I also want to encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review Teach Better Talk podcast and the Teach Better Team's YouTube. Let's be honest, if you made it this far, it's might as well just do that click for everybody and celebrate the good things so that we can continue to connect with more amazing guests that are going to be on the show, and then obviously connect with amazing educators that can continue to contribute to the content and the questions we have. Bridget, thanks again for coming on. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me.